Growing up with a sister who required constant care has shaped my life in ways I never imagined, leaving me torn between love and frustration. I was 6 years old when I first became a big sister, filled with excitement and wonder. I had imagined playing with my new little sibling, teaching them things, and feeling the warmth of being close to my parents. But everything changed the moment Sophia was born. Her arrival, as innocent as it seemed, marked the beginning of my gradual disappearance from the spotlight. At first, I didn't realize it, just small shifts, almost imperceptible. But soon, I found myself moved from the cozy warmth of the family's living room to the cold, dim basement. It felt like I had been erased, my presence replaced by her needs, her constant cries, her demands for attention. The basement was isolating, lonely. I would lie awake at night, listening to the sounds of my parents upstairs, laughing, talking, and being together. It hurt so much, like I wasn't even a part of the family anymore. The pain settled deep in my chest. My parents, the people I loved more than anyone, seemed to forget I existed. They weren't bad people, but they didn't see me. They didn't notice how it felt to be left behind, to be relegated to the basement, to lose everything that made me feel seen. I loved my sister, but the truth was, I resented her. I resented what her existence had done to my life, and I couldn't understand why my parents couldn't see the damage it caused me. I was supposed to be her big sister, her protector, but instead, I felt like I was invisible, living in the shadows of my own home. The shift from being a cherished part of the family to feeling like an afterthought was slow but undeniable. The first sign was when I was moved to the basement to make room for Sophia. My parents claimed it was because she needed to be closer to them, and I could understand that after all, she was the baby. But the cold basement felt like a punishment, a silent signal that I no longer mattered. I missed the warmth of being near my family, the way we used to gather in the living room after dinner, talking and laughing together. Now, I was alone, and it hurt. I would hear them upstairs, going about their evening, and I couldn't help but feel abandoned, isolated, like I didn't belong anymore. The darkness of the basement mirrored the loneliness I felt inside. I would lie in my bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wishing I could go back to the way things were. But those days felt like a distant memory, a time when I was seen, when I was part of the family. Now, I was an afterthought, a child left in the shadows, and the pain of being overlooked seemed to grow with each passing day. I loved Sophia, I did, but I hated what her presence had done to my life. It wasn't fair. I had once imagined being her protector, a sister who would always look out for her. But now, I was just another person who was expected to silently give up her place in the family. No one ever asked if I was okay. No one ever cared to see how much I was hurting. I had vanished, and no one noticed. Losing my toys to Sophia was one of the hardest blows I ever experienced. She didn't mean to break them, I know that, but it didn't make the pain any less. Every time I came home, another one of my precious things was destroyed, and my parents never seemed to care. I remember the feeling of helplessness, standing in the middle of my room, staring at the wreckage of yet another toy that had been my escape from the loneliness. I tried to explain how much it hurt, though those toys were my only comfort in the basement, my way of coping with feeling invisible. I hoped they would understand, but all I got was the same old response. She's younger. She doesn't understand. You're the big sister. You should be more understanding. It wasn't fair. I wasn't asking for much. I didn't want her to stop playing with my things. I just wanted my parents to acknowledge my pain, to see that I was hurting. But every time, they dismissed me, and that feeling of being unheard grew like a wound that never healed. The toys weren't just objects. They were pieces of me, parts of the person I used to be before I was cast aside. And as they continued to break, so did the last shred of the person I thought I was. I began to resent Sophia more and more, not for being who she was, but because she represented everything I had lost: the attention, the love, the space to be myself. I felt like a ghost in my own family. The MacBook incident was the final straw. It wasn't just about the laptop. It was about everything: the years of feeling invisible, the constant sacrifice, the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would notice how much I was hurting. The MacBook was a gift from school, a reward for my hard work, and when it was destroyed, I was crushed. I had worked so hard to earn that, and in one careless moment, it was gone. But that wasn't the worst part. When I told my parents, hoping for some sympathy, hoping they'd see how much it hurt me, they didn't care. They didn't even listen. All I heard was, "She didn't mean to do it. You're the older sister. You need to be more understanding." The words felt like a slap in the face. No one even considered how it felt for me, the one who had sacrificed so much. No one even acknowledged the emotional weight I carried every day. The anger inside me simmered, but it was the emptiness that cut the deepest. In that moment, I realized that nothing I did would ever be enough. My sister, without even trying, was the center of everything, and I was just a side character in my own life. It wasn't just about the laptop. It was about the years of being overlooked, the silent sacrifices, and the slow death of my own identity. I wanted to scream, to throw everything I had left in a fit of rage, but I couldn't. All I could do was hold the shattered pieces of my world together and pretend like it didn't hurt, like I wasn't breaking inside. I had to make a choice. For the first time in forever, I decided to take a break just for a couple of hours. I turned off my phone and went to watch the new Spider-Man movie with my friends, desperate for some peace, a moment where I could just be a teenager and not a caregiver. But when the movie ended and I checked my phone, it was like I had walked into a storm. Missed calls, texts everywhere. Panic rushed through me, but what hit harder was the anger in my mother's voice when she answered. "Where have you been? We needed you an hour ago." She didn't even give me a chance to explain. I rushed home, my heart pounding, already dreading what awaited me. When I stepped inside, the tension was suffocating. My parents were furious, their disappointment crushing. They didn't care about my break, my need to feel normal. All that mattered was that I wasn't there when Sophia needed me. I tried to explain, but they didn't listen. "Your responsibilities here are more important than some movie," my mom said, and I felt my soul twist in agony. It wasn't just about the movie. It was about being trapped, suffocated by a role I never asked for. I had worked so hard to be recognized, to finally have something that was just mine. The speech at school was supposed to be my moment, my chance to shine. My parents promised they would be there cheering me on. For the first time in a long while, I felt seen, important. I spent weeks practicing, imagining their proud faces in the audience, knowing they'd be there to witness me succeed. But that day, the moment I stepped onto that stage, I realized they weren't there. I looked into the crowd, desperately searching for their faces, but all I saw were strangers. The pain hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't just about the speech, it was everything. It was the years of being overlooked, of being second to Sophia. And in that moment, standing there alone, I felt like I didn't matter. When the ceremony ended, I walked home in a daze, my hands shaking. The applause from the crowd echoed in my ears, but it felt hollow. No one cared, not really. I wasn't even important enough for them to show up. When I got home, the first thing I was greeted with wasn't an apology or even sympathy. No, it was an excuse about Sophia needing them. It was always her. I couldn't help but feel like I was invisible, like I had spent all this time working towards something that would never matter in the end. The crushing weight of my family's neglect was unbearable. That conversation with my dad about college was supposed to be a turning point. For once, I thought we were talking about me, my future. But the moment he made that offhand comment, I felt the floor fall out from under me. He joked, casually, about me picking a high-paying major so I could take care of Sophia after they were gone. I froze. His words weren't just words, they were a confirmation of everything I had been feeling for years. That my life, my future, was never going to be my own. It was going to be about her. It was like I wasn't allowed to have dreams that didn't revolve around being Sophia's caregiver. Every ounce of anger, frustration, and pain that had been building inside me exploded in that moment. I couldn't breathe. I tried to hold it in, but my voice cracked as I yelled at him, trying to make him understand the depth of my resentment. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't live in a world where my existence was reduced to nothing but a safety net for Sophia. I wanted to scream, to run away, to tear it all down. But my dad just stared at me, cold and unseeing, like he couldn't understand why I was upset. His face was blank, almost emotionless. That was when I realized I would never be anything more than a backup plan, a future caretaker, a piece of the family's puzzle that was never allowed to be whole. I felt shattered, like nothing about me mattered beyond what I could do for Sophia. The weight of it all crushed me. I ran to my room, slamming the door behind me, but even then, I knew nothing was going to change. Leaving was the hardest decision I've ever made, but in that moment, it was the only choice I had left. After everything years of feeling invisible, neglected, and trapped in a role I never chose, I finally packed my things and left. I couldn't stay in a house where I was just an afterthought, where my needs were secondary to Sophia's Prusen. When I arrived at my grandpa's house, I expected peace, but what I didn't anticipate was the weight that would lift off my shoulders. For the first time in so long, I didn't feel like I was suffocating. Grandpa didn't ask anything of me, simply let me be. We spent our days talking about anything and everything, and for once, I felt like my future was mine to control. I could breathe again. I could think about me, not just about taking care of someone else. It wasn't just about escaping the chaos at home. It was about finding a piece of myself I had long forgotten. But the pain of leaving, the guilt, still lingered. I missed my family, despite everything. Yet, deep down, I knew I needed this time, this space, to figure out who I was outside of the role I had been forced into. I wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, I felt hope. I was no longer just a shadow in my own life. I was Emily again, and that feeling was worth everything.